Welcome back to the Pyromaniacs. Week 1 is in the book. I know Craig and I both had frustrating Sundays with a little bit of a turnaround on Monday Night Showdown. I think you had more success in the 2-game slate on Monday, right?
I did, yeah. Thank goodness.
Awesome, awesome. So, we're week 2. We're talking quarterbacks this morning. And I want to remind everybody before we get into it to make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification bell here on YouTube. We appreciate it. Make sure you check out RotoHeat.com. And right after this, we will get into our quarterback picks of week 2.
Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
All right, we're back. Craig, looking at this quarterback board, what is sticking out to you? And let's start with a little bit of like cash game talk. Which quarterback do you think at this point of the week you would be eyeing for your cash game lineup?
Um, there's a couple good ones out there. I think I'm going to go back to the well and go with Matt Ryan. Um, he's kind of mid-tier priced. We know that team's going to throw a bunch. We saw what he did in week 1. He's getting up there in age, but he still likes to throw the rock around. So I think I would start with Ryan. What do you think?
Yeah, I love targeting those rushing quarterbacks for my cash game lineup because they give you a little bit of a floor. But Matt Ryan basically has that 30-yard rushing upside because he's going to hit that 300-yard bonus damn near every week.
Yeah.
And we saw it in week 1 with 450 yards. I mean, this team doesn't look like they're going to be able to stop anybody. Uh,
No.
and this dude threw 54 times in week 1. Dallas's offense is potent. I do like the guy on the other end of that game as well at just, $200 more at 6,800. But the builds that I've been starting to make, I've actually been getting Kyler Murray in there quite a bit at 6,100. He's got that rushing upside. Washington does put some pressure on the quarterback. We've seen that in week 1. This bottom dwelling $2,000 defense was just in the backfield the entire game. Um, Arizona's line isn't the greatest, but we know Kyler Murray can extend those plays, and he's probably going to have some rushing upside here. In week 1, he rushed for 91 yards, and I believe he was actually over that 100-yard bonus, but kneel downs backed him out of that, and he lost 9 yards on 3 kneel downs, which
Yeah.
is rough. You lose that bonus in 30-point day, but I just think the way my builds are going, I'm going to be a little bit lower than that. I like being in that like 55 to $6,200 range most of the time at quarterback and cash builds, but there's a lot of options. We can even go down a little bit further. Uh, I think Mitch Trubisky against the Giants. We said it was gross, and it was gross for
Woo.
3 quarters, but he seemed to figure something out in that fourth quarter against the Lions. But at 5,500, obviously in cash games, if we can get to that, 16 point uh, spot for a quarterback that's 5,500. It doesn't kill your lineup, and we know he's got that mid 20s upside. Um, it makes you want to cringe when you hit that button, but if it helps you get to the other guys that you want, I don't think it's crazy. Love him for GPPs again, though. If people remember the first 3 quarters, he could be really low owned. Those stacks could be really low owned. And then you've got that Allen Robinson narrative of him being pissed off and deleting all his bear stuff on Twitter and maybe wanting out of town. So maybe they feed him the rock to make him a little bit happy, and you might even be able to pair them up in your cash lineup, which we'll talk about wide receivers in a different one. But what other guys are you looking at on this board that for tournaments really stick out to you?
Um, I feel gross saying it, and I would actually play him in cash or a tournament, but I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is bad this week only because of the defense they're facing. I mean, that team's already beat up a little bit, but the Jets are horrible. Um, I think Tyrod. I don't think anybody's going to be on after last week, and they're going to be playing from behind. Or I assume, right? Kansas City is probably just going to boat race them, so I think Tyrod offers some upside too.
Yeah, he only threw 30 times. That team, they just, man, they're really trying to slow down the games, but when you play Kansas City, you can't do that. You're not going to be able to slow down the game. Kansas City's going to keep that ball moving. Um, I'm actually like I mentioned it earlier, and not just for cash games, but a lot of times I like to pay down even in my GPP lineups if I can find those stacks that make sense. But I just think Dak Prescott is just shooting out to me this week. I think he had a lower output in week one, and people are going to look at that, but he's got this juicy matchup with Atlanta that's not going to be able to stop anybody. And you've got bring back options on the other side. We actually seen a lot of Calvin Ridley in big tournament wins this past week. I think another, bring back option with that is, I mean, you can literally play Dak Prescott with Cooper and Lamb, or Cooper and Gallup, or Cooper and Elliott, or a combination of the other two, Gallup and Elliott,
Mm-hmm.
or Gallup and Lamb. I mean, there's just so many options here that you can do to differentiate yourself. And then you can bring it back, and a guy that I think might end up going low owned on the other side is Hurst, because he didn't have the big production, but he did get a lot of run. He ran a lot of routes in that first week, so I think there's a lot of ways to get unique with a Dak Prescott build in GPPs. So I like that. Josh Allen, again, he's got options that you can actually stack him with. I think he's fine to run naked if you aren't feeling that. But John Brown and Diggs both ran a lot of deep routes, and those are your boom plays. And
Yep.
and Diggs didn't get one, and Allen completely missed Brown on another one, like one of the worst misses you're ever gonna see. And you're gonna get that from Josh Allen, but there's also a lot of big splash play uh, ability in there. And then again, Matt Stafford. Uh,
Really?
Matt Stafford, we know he's going to put up points, and he was missing Galladay in week one. If Galladay comes back, I don't mind some Stafford stacks, because I think where he's at, Big Ben had a decent week. Kyler Murray's right below him. I think Stafford's going to go under owned in GPPs, just because those guys around him. Watson's only a couple $100 more, which Watson's in a bad matchup. He makes a good GPP play too, because we know he can put up points, and he might go unowned because people are going to see what Baltimore did, not unowned, but low owned for his talent, because people see what Baltimore did to the Browns last week, but people also have to remember that is the Browns. Um, the only other one that I was really going to mention, I mean, obviously quarterback, the ownership and the scoring is flat across the board, so you can play a lot of different guys in your GPPs, but Ryan Fitzpatrick had a really bad week one,
Mm-hmm.
and it was basically him and Trubisky really bad. Trubisky only for 3 quarters, and then a makeup fourth quarter, which may make him a little bit too high owned. We'll have to see how that pans out throughout the week, but uh, Ryan Fitzpatrick in his 8.4 is going to get a lot of people off of him,
Oh yeah.
and if you want a truly unique build, I think Ryan Fitzpatrick to Parker is definitely viable for GPPs, and then you can bring it back with one of those guys that we talked about on Buffalo with John Brown or Stephon Diggs, and give yourself a real unique look. And if Ryan Fitzpatrick goes off and has one of his big games that he is capable of having, you've just set yourself apart big time from the field. But I wouldn't be going crazy on it. I wouldn't, if he might be 1% owned, I wouldn't go like 15% owned on Ryan Fitzpatrick if you're mass multi-entering something. But
Right.
if you wanna get yourself different, I don't think it's a bad play there. Do you have any more thoughts on quarterbacks?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's. I think it'll probably be chalky, but assuming Galladay goes, and that's a big assumption, I I'm not afraid to play Rodgers and stack with Adams and then run it back with Galladay and do the opposite of your Matt Stafford stack just because I mean it may be chalky because Rodgers absolutely went off, but um, we know that him and Adams are going to combine for some stupid stat line on most weeks. Um, and if you can run it back with a reliable Lion, or maybe even TJ Hawkinson, who I've been so high on. It may not get you different, but sometimes you don't have to be super different to get, to cash in some of these single entries. Now, if you're trying to win the Millionaire Maker, I don't know if Rodgers is going to be on that roster, but I'm not opposed to him.
Yeah, it's hard to go back to back in the winning lineup in the Millionaire Maker only because of ownership and differentiation. But no, I don't hate it either. But I think that one with the ownership is really dependent on Galladay being back, um, because I just don't know that Detroit is capable of putting up the points that we're gonna want here. Um, to really get a game stat going. I I don't hate it, but I do think it's going to be really, really popular. I think Devontae Adams is the reason why it's tough for me. I think I might even go with some like Aaron Rodgers with Lazard and MVS, uh, then bringing it back with Kenny Galladay, um, just to differentiate. Adams is going to get. I mean, that dude's just going to have 10 to 12 targets. He's probably going to be cash game viable every week.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about that in the wide receiver video, but we called him Michael Thomas Light last week, and I think what we meant was he's the new Michael
Yeah.
Thomas. And sadly, Michael Thomas is going to be out for a little while, so we need somebody to fill that role for us there. So,
Hey, what do you think about Kirk Cousins against Indy? I mean, they let Minshew go nuts on him. I mean, not nuts
I mean,
yardage wise, but touchdown wise.
yeah, I'm worried about the volume one with Cousins. I mean, at one point last Sunday, I posted in our chat, look at that.
Yeah, I know.
Aaron Rodgers has attempted 24 passes and Kirk Cousins has attempted 2. And that hurts. And then we see that the way the Jaguars attacked them was, on the ground. Minshew, only threw 20 passes in that game, but he
Yeah.
was 19 for 20, like super efficient.
Yes.
So I don't know that. I'm not sure. I have to see more throughout this week and look into that more. But we can't get done with this episode without mentioning Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Like it should go without saying. Those guys are GPP viable. I'm probably not paying up for them in cash games because you don't have to. Um, but I mean, Lamar Jackson, another guy that last year we ran naked a lot because he didn't have that consistent target. Marquis Brown is going to get targets in this offense. I talked about it week 1. People thought I was crazy, but he's probably going to be in that 6 to 8 range, and he's probably going to average 18 to 20 yards per catch. And then Andrews is finally running more routes now that they don't have 97 viable tight ends in their room. So he's a stack option. So there's stack options there. Then obviously we know Patrick Mahomes and all his stack options. There's 97 different ways you can put him into a lineup to try to get yourself unique. So I didn't want people watching this video like, oh, they don't like Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. No, they're viable every week. In most weeks, we're probably not going to talk about how we love those guys because it's evident. I mean, until they show us a reason why they shouldn't be in GPP lineups, they're viable options. So, um, on that note, I want to make sure if you like this video, you hit that like button. That helps us a ton. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And we're going to be back here in just a little bit with some running backs. And we're going to get ready for this week 2 because week 1 was rough. We seen a lot of stuff that we didn't think we were going to see. We didn't see some stuff that we thought we were going to see. And when we get into these running backs and wide receivers, it's when these cash builds and GPP builds get juicy.
Hell yeah.
So thank you, Craig, and we'll see you soon.
Also, right there, playlist. Hit it. Watch the videos. Do it. You want to.